My name is Lulanga Sydney. I'm a tutor for organizational behavior. In this presentation, we have certain competencies that we are supposed to attain at the end of it, what we call the learning outcomes. So at the end of this presentation, or at the end of this course, you should be able to judge personal behaviors, group behaviors within organizations, and be able to identify stressful situations and remedial actions that need to be taken thereof. Should also be able to formulate motivation policies aiming at bringing levels of satisfaction in medium enterprises, smaller enterprises, and large enterprises. So a student at the end of this presentation, you should be able to understand certain dynamics, certain behaviors within organizations of individuals as well as groups. So organizational behavior, we need to define what organizational behavior is. Organizational behavior is a field of study that investigates how individuals, groups, and structure affect and are affected by behaviors within organizations for the purpose of applying such knowledge towards improving an organization's effectiveness. So it investigates how individuals here we are talking about employees, employers, stakeholders who are directly or indirectly associated with the organization, groups of people. Groups is more than two people together, and the structure, systems put into place, how they are affected by behaviors within organizations. And then the issue about applying such knowledge towards improving the organization's effectiveness, organization's productivity, organization's outlook to the outside world. So what is an organization? An organization is a consciously coordinated social unit composed of two or more people that functions on a relatively continuous basis to achieve a common goal or set of goals. Now, personal behaviors, here we are looking at interests, needs, and internal abilities of employees. Those are personal behaviors. And when we look at management functions, when we are looking at management functions, we always refer ourselves to Henry Fayol. However, in this particular instance, we are going to expand on what Henry Fayol talks about. So when we are looking at organizational behavior, management functions within organizational behavior, we look at a number of factors. The first one is planning, organizing, leading, controlling. We also look at interpersonal roles, relationships within the organization, employment relations, labor relations. We also look at how employees work together, support each other, complement each other's efforts, and they in informational roles that goes beyond the communication, the importance of communication in an organization, and then decisional roles. Who makes decisions, when are decisions made, what type of decisions are made, at which level, what impact do they have? So those are management functions. Now, management functions are different from management skills. Skills are competencies or abilities, knowledge, experiences that people have in order to ensure that the organizational objectives, organizational goals are realized. So there are three major skills that we are looking at here. We are looking at the technical skills, human skills, and conceptual skills. Technical skills, here we are looking at skills that are attained through learning, through training, through development. Human skills have to do with social skills, relationships, the influence that people get from other people that they work with, how they attain certain skills, how to do certain things, and how they affect other people. Conceptual skills, how we conceptualize certain aspects, internalize certain aspects, and making them our own, and sharing these with other people. Okay, so what are the goals of organizational behavior? There are a number of goals that organizational behavior tries to attain. So organizational behavior goals, one of the goals is to try to explain, try to predict, control human behavior, and also seeks to replace intuitive explanations with systematic study. So organizational behavior tries to explain what is happening in the organization, tries to explain how a particular individual employee, what role does that person play, what value does that person add, what needs to be done to that particular employee, and then you go to groups, and then you go to the organization itself. And then organizational behavior also helps us to understand that if this is what is happening, there's a possibility of this. Unless this is done, then you don't expect that. So prediction. And then organizational behavior also helps us to control certain human behavior. And it also tends to replace certain intuitive explanation with systematic study. So what are the contributing disciplines to organizational behavior? There are about 5 disciplines which contribute to organizational behavior. The first one is the psychology, which seeks to measure, explain, and change human behavior. Sociology studies, looking at people in relations to their fellow human beings. Social psychology, which focuses on the influence of people on one another. Anthropology, the study of societies, how societies try to learn from about other human beings and their activities. And then political science, the study of the behavior of individuals and groups within a political environment. Now, these disciplines are contributing factors or contributing disciplines to define what organizational behavior is all about. So we cannot understand organizational behavior without realizing the influence of psychology, sociology, social psychology, anthropology, and political science. So how does, what is the organizational behavior model? The organizational behavior model starts with at an individual level. Then it moves to a group. Then it moves to the organization system. So you start small, you grow big as you move up the ladder. So you start with the lowest ladder, which is the individual himself or herself, and then coordinates or relates with other people. They form groups, and then the groups, they form the organization system. So that's a model. Now, what are some of the dependent variables for organizational behavior? Dependent variables are those factors which are affected by organizational behavior. One of them is productivity. Productivity is affected by organizational behavior, by an individual, by the group, by the organization itself. So if an individual is not performing, the individual doesn't have the required skills, does not have the correct abilities, or does not have the ability or capabilities, does not have the correct attitude, the person, the productivity will be affected. Then we move to the group, we move to the organization itself. Absenteeism, people not reporting for work, people having this laxity towards work, people not just performing. So that is affected by organizational behavior. What about the turnover? People not staying longer in the organization. People, the movement of incomings and outgoings in the organization. And then the organizational citizenship behavior. The organization, the individuals or groups of people within the organization not having that link, or expressing the ownership, or expressing ways of showing that they are part and parcel of the organization. So this recognition, organizational citizenship, ownership, and then job satisfaction is another variable that is affected by the organization behavior. Individuals not feeling motivated, not feeling belonging, therefore their performance is affected. What about independent variables? Independent variables, in independent variables, what we are looking at are certain factors, certain variables. For example, individual variables, we are looking at age, we are looking at gender, we are looking at personality, we are looking at emotions, values, attitude, and ability. We are under individual variables, we are also looking at perception, we are looking at individual decision making, we are also looking at learning and motivation. Now, group variables, we are looking at norms, we are looking at communication, we are looking at leadership, we are looking at power, politics. Independent variables, we are also looking at organizational system variables, organizational culture, HR practices. All those are independent variables. So we should be able to differentiate between dependent variables and independent variables. So what are the challenges and opportunities for organizational behavior? One of the challenges of organization behavior is that the typical employee is getting old. So we are having atypical employees. So the typical one is getting old and therefore leaving the organization. Then we are having a typical employee, younger generation, who do not really have connections with the organization, who have no clue or little interest in knowing the organizational culture, who do not show any commitment to the organization, and therefore the organization has to create a certain culture to incorporate this new generation of employees through induction, through proper hiring based on merit, and motivating such employees, maintaining such employees that they grow in the organization and they associate themselves with the organization. The second challenge is that there are more women and minorities in the workplace, and therefore it's an opportunity for the organization to bring about diversity in the organization, to help these women and minorities to realize their potentials or potentialities and abilities, and therefore the organization to grow. There's new blood. Then the third challenge is the global competition that is requiring employees to become more flexible. So it gives an opportunity to the organization to realize or to create or provide opportunities for employees to be proactive, to give them all the tools, the skills through training and development that the employees could be more available, job enlargement, job placement. Employees should be more flexible, more available, and provide more. And then the historical loyalty is another challenge. Bonds that held many employees to their employees today no longer exist. And therefore, there's a new relationship that is created in the workplaces. Now, responding to globalization, organizational behavior looks at globalization as an opportunity and also a threat to organizations. So we find that it's an opportunity in a way that organizations tend to be more global, they tend to be more multinational, and they go beyond the immediate, they diversify, they grow. Okay, so there's an increased foreign assignments for employees, individual employees, groups, and also organizations themselves. There's also an enrichment that comes in the organization, that organizations tend to be more diverse, working with people from different cultures, different times of the day. So organizations don't need to shut down. They can have different offices in different parts of the world. And then there's also the coping of organization with the anti-capitalism backlash. There's also the issue about overseeing movement of jobs to countries with low-cost labor. So how does organization behavior help with managing diversity, workplace diversity? Women, more women in workplaces, more minorities. So the workplace diversity organizations are becoming more heterogeneous, a mixture of people in terms of gender, more women, age, more young people coming in, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. It's also helping to understand the diversity implications that managers have to shift their philosophy from treating everyone alike to recognizing differences and similarities between employees and responding to those differences and similarities in ways that ensure employee retention, creating conducive environments for greater productivity. What are some of the organizational behavior insights? The first insight there is improving people's skills, okay, and then improving customer service, empowering employees, working in worked organizations, stimulating innovation and change, coping with temporariness, helping employees balance work-life conflicts, and also helping in declining or reducing employee loyalty, focusing on productivity, focusing on improving ethical behavior. So what have we looked at in this particular presentation? We have realized that organizational behavior is the study of the way how people interact within organizations at individual level, group level, and organizational level. We have also realized that organizational behavior is applied in an attempt to create more efficient business organization. We have also realized that organizational behavior, central idea is that a scientific approach needs to be applied to the management of employees. So organizational behavior helps us to understand the new work environment, interpret the new work environment, analyze the new work environment, and be able to determine how the new work environment should be interpreted, should be attained, and should be managed and realized.